You know, there's something deeply primal and terrifying about the grenade. It's not a distant weapon like artillery. It's not impersonal. It's something you hold in your hand. You make a choice, and then you throw your own little piece of hell. Its history is far older and more global than the classic image from a World War I trench might suggest. This is the story of a weapon that evolved from a simple burning pot to a standardized tool of industrial warfare. Think about the basic principle. It's almost childishly simple. A container, some kind of filler that burns or explodes, and a way to ignite it. That concept is ancient. Historians point to accounts from 8th century China, where Byzantine texts describe something called Greek fire being hurled in pots. Now that was more of an incendiary, a liquid flame, but the idea of throwing a destructive agent was there. Fast forward to later in China, and we see the first true prototypes, gunpowder-filled clay or iron pots, thrown by hand or launched by catapults during sieges. They had names like Zhen Tianlei, which translates to heaven-shaking thunder. Can you imagine the shock of facing that for the first time? The concept traveled along trade routes. By the Middle Ages in Europe, you start to see references to these weapons during sieges. They were often crude, dangerous to the user, iron containers with a slow match fuse. Their use was sporadic, specialized. It really wasn't until the 17th century that the grenade found its name and its first dedicated soldier. That name comes from the French word for pomegranate, grenade, because those early iron shells, filled with musket balls and powder, resembled the fruit, and the soldier, the grenadier. Now, the early grenadier was an imposing figure. He had to be. Accounts from the time describe the role requiring a strong arm, steady nerves, and a tall, powerful build. He'd carry a pouch of these fused iron spheres. In the heat of battle, he'd light the fuse from a slow match cord, wait a critical moment, judging the burn, and then hurl it. It was a specialist weapon used for clearing trenches, breastworks, and deck-to-deck naval combat. But by the 18th and 19th centuries, with the rise of more mobile, linear infantry tactics, the grenade fell out of favor. It was too unpredictable, too dangerous to the men using it. For a while, it became a relic. But then, industrial war happened. The battlefields of the Russo-Japanese War in 1904-1905 offered a grim preview. And then the Western Front in 1914 locked into its stalemate. Suddenly, the war was all trenches, bunkers, and fortified strongpoints. The need for a weapon to clear enclosed spaces, to reach into the enemy's trench without exposing yourself fully, became absolutely desperate. And just like that, the centuries-old grenade was resurrected and reinvented with industrialized fury. The early days of WWI were almost medieval. Soldiers resorted to improvisation, creating what they called jam tin bombs. These were literally tin cans packed with gunpowder, scrap metal, and a simple fuse. They were wildly unreliable, but the demand was so great that formal design and mass production had to kick in, and fast. This is where national characteristics really emerged in the design. The Germans refined the stick grenade, the steel hand granate. It looked like a wooden handle with a metal can on the end. An old veteran's account I read once said it was easier to throw for distance, and you could bundle several heads together for a bigger blast. The British answer was perhaps the most iconic, the Mills bomb. Designed by William Mills, it was a cast-iron pineapple segmented on the outside to aid fragmentation. Its key innovation was a safe, reliable spring-loaded lever and pin mechanism. You pulled the pin, held the lever, the famous spoon, and only when you threw it would the lever fly off and start the fuse. This basic pin and spoon design became the global standard, really. The French had their own designs, like the reliable citron fugue, and everyone was racing to produce them by the millions. The impact on the fighting was horrifying and profound. The grenade turned the trench into a deadly labyrinth. Fighting wasn't just about rifles anymore. A new, intimate, close-quarters combat evolved: trench raiding. Small teams would creep across no man's land at night, armed with clubs, knives, pistols, and sacks of grenades. They'd lob grenades into dugouts, then clear the survivors. It was brutal, personal, and psychologically devastating. The constant threat of a grenade being rolled into your bunker created a unique kind of frontline terror. And the grenade kept evolving during the war. Rifle grenades were developed, launching the projectile farther using a blank cartridge. Specialized types emerged: smoke grenades for concealment, thermite grenades for destroying equipment. It was a full ecosystem of thrown explosives. After WWI, the grenade was a permanent staple of infantry kits. WW saw further refinements: the American Mk2 Pineapple, the Soviet F1, the German potato masher Model 24. But the fundamental principles from the Mills bomb were locked in. Later conflicts introduced new materials like plastic, more reliable fuses, and specialized designs like the offensive concussion grenade, which stuns with blast rather than fragmentation. So, what's the legacy of this simple device? It democratized explosive power for the individual soldier. It forced a change in infantry tactics and fortification design. But more than that, I think it represents a dark irony. One of humanity's oldest thrown weapons, a simple pot of fire, was perfected not in an age of knights and castles, but in the heart of industrial, mass warfare. It's a weapon born from necessity in siege warfare, forgotten in the age of the battlefield, and then resurrected to become a symbol of the 20th century's most brutal, confined infantry fighting. It's a tool that, once invented in its modern form, could never be uninvented. From a clay pot meant to shake heaven to the standardized pineapple in every soldier's webbing, the grenade's journey is a stark reminder of how old ideas are often refined in the crucible of modern conflict. Which historical weapon's evolution would you like us to explore next? Share your thoughts in the comments below.